I think meetings get a bad rep, right? Like, especially like customer facing ones, they're super valuable. What's frustrating is when you have to do 7 of them in a day and the mental load of like talking to someone and typing out your notes at the same time and doing all the post meeting follow-up work. We're basically trying to build this world where you just have the meeting. You just need to show up and Fathom kind of does the rest. And so
Hey, welcome back to Avidly Talks. And this week I'm joined by Richard White. He's the founder and CEO of Fathom.video. It's a free app that records, transcribes, and highlights your calls so you can focus on the conversation instead of taking notes, which there's a few of these tools knocking around, but I'm excited to talk to Richard. How you doing? Good morning to you rather than good evening.
Good morning to you as well. Thanks for having me on.
You're over in San Francisco, is that right?
That's correct.
So you are excited, I hope, for Inbound to come to your neighborhood next year.
Yeah, I was very excited about that announcement. I mean, I love Boston, but I love not flying across the country even more.
It's blowing our mind that how long it takes us to get to Boston, actually. Got to go that far again next time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot further than we're used to over in Europe, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, less geography. We are here to talk specifically about an AI solution. We've been chatting to a lot of people around AI as a topic, how it's affecting sales and marketing, how it's changing the landscape in the inbound world as we know it. But with your tool, Fathom, we've got something which is more about communication at large. So I'm excited to talk to you about that. But let's get into it specifically about AI note takers. So tell us about Fathom. What is it and what makes it so good, which it is?
Great. Thank you. Yeah. I think you did a good job on the lead there, right? It's a completely free AI note taker, joins your meetings, takes great notes for you using the latest AI technology. We've been doing Fathom now for about 3 years. We are the #1 AI note taker on the HubSpot marketplace, on the Zoom marketplace. We're actually the fastest growing HubSpot app of last year. We're also #1 rated on G2. We have about 3,500 reviews and still a perfect 5.0 rating. And when we look at that rating and see like what do people love about it, we typically hear kind of a handful of things, right? One, it's just, I think it's anyone who's on a lot of meetings, having something like Fathom in the meeting with you, I think just makes it way less stressful. You don't have to worry about missing something. You don't have to worry about trying to type out notes or jot in your notebook at the same time. Fathom uniquely will give you, not only write your notes with AI, it'll give you those notes within about 30 seconds of the call ending. We'll also automatically fill in your CRM, right? We'll automatically log all the meeting in HubSpot along with those notes in that summary. And you have a lot of control over the summary. So we have about 15 different templates you can choose from, whether you're in sales or customer success or you name it. And you actually give the AI feedback on how you like it to take notes specific to you. Maybe you've got a specific sales methodology. We support things like Medic and Spice, but maybe yours is slightly different. You can give the AI feedback on that. And, we have some premium versions, but we also have, like I said, a completely free version. And that's the majority of our users use. And I think that's also a big differentiator is we have a forever free product that is limited usage. And so folks seem to really love that. And that's, I think, why we are so fortunate to get such good reviews.
I think it's a great way it's presented on the site as well. And I remember when I first looked at your homepage, it says free forever or free forever plan. And then there's a little help box. How or why?
Right.
Do you want to just explain that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's justifiably a lot of skepticism when you give away something, when you give away so much value for free, right?
Especially something which is getting data, which is...
Yeah, I think over the last 10 years, a lot of companies haven't been good actors about that, right? There's always some catch, right? It's like, oh, we're going to sell your data, or we're going to sell you to advertisers or something like that. We don't do any of those things. We have a business model where, we're hoping you use the product because when you use it, you tend to share it with other people. And eventually we have a team product that we sell to like managers, people running sales teams, success teams, you name it, that is like, sits on top of this and helps them understand what's happening in these meetings. And so in a lot of ways, this is lead gen for us. And so we're just very transparent about our business model because we don't want people thinking we're doing something nefarious. No, it just like really works that we can give away this product for free because we know you're going to love it. and then you're going to bring it to your colleagues, and then they're going to bring it to their leadership and whatnot, and eventually it'll become a tool, not just for the folks on the meetings, but also the folks that are trying to understand what's happening on those meetings, right? Everyone wants to know what's happening on these customer calls, and so we help try to make that a little bit easier for everyone.
I noticed the gamification for a start. So like you connect to Zoom, you get 5 points. You connect to HubSpot, you get 5 points, whatever. But I also noticed the very nice user experience of asks you what role you're in, it asks you what you're using it for, and whether you're a manager, team member, or individual contributor. I also saw when you say about referring to your colleagues, it then pulls in people in my team. And I was just interested, is that people who the tool knows hasn't used it yet?
Correct. Yeah. So it's people on your team. Like when you meet with them, it's like, hey, would Tim on your team benefit from using this too, sort of thing. And yeah, the gamification thing is fun. Like we do a raffle every month where we give away $1,000 to a random user based upon how many points they have. It's like each point is kind of like a raffle ticket. We kind of just love doing our marketing budget is mostly us sending gift cards and things to users and doing these, I think when we were raising our Series A, our investors were like, what is this line item spend? I was like, oh yeah, this is it's our biggest marketing spend. This is us sending gift cards to users and people winning raffles and whatnot. And their heads kind of exploded, but they're like, okay, cool. So it's fun, right? I think when you have a word of mouth product like this, I'd rather give money back to my users for when they give us feedback or, for doing things in the product like that, rather than just dumping it all in Google ads, right? Much rather go back to our community.
Yeah, that's the way to go, isn't it? We've got an event coming up. I think this will be going out a week before, the event happens, all about customer growth, activating your customer-led sales and marketing. And especially in a SaaS product like yours, it's absolutely key to stand out by having, I was thinking typing the notes up to this. When I say it's an AI note taker, people go, oh yeah, great. There's every meeting I go on, somebody's got a different one.
Yeah.
But the fact that you're generating that word of mouth is such a powerful tactic, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think we live in a world where word of mouth is really relevant again, right? It's really amplified. It's the one marketing channel that's getting better, not worse, to a certain degree. So I think there's a lot to be said for that. I mean, the challenge is you have to build. I think when I talk to other entrepreneurs, the challenge you have to build a product we really love. It's not enough just to be okay, right? And so we focus a lot on that, not only from the product perspective, but a support perspective. We try to do really high quality support, even on a free product. All that stuff I think really matters when you're trying to create a great user experience.
And the sales teams aren't the only use case. I think you mentioned using it for sales calls and sales managers, but you must see a lot of different teams using it in companies.
Yeah, we do. That's been the fun part. I think, historically people know things like Gong and they're kind of like, oh, this kind of technology is just for the sales team. And yeah, sales is one of our best users. Obviously, they love our CRM integrations with Salesforce, especially HubSpot. But what we've kind of seen is they're actually not even a majority of our users. We have folks across the org, customer success, account management, marketing. We also see a lot of agencies, a lot of consultancies, even a lot of freelancers, you name it. So really it's, you can use Fathom in every meeting, but we see a lot of folks especially folks that do a lot of client facing or customer facing or prospect facing meetings. It's really, really valuable because obviously it's so hard to get those folks back on the line. So you want to know you want to capture everything they said, right? You don't know what's going to be useful to you later or what someone else on your team might need to know about. So yeah, we see all sorts of folks, right, sign up for Fathom. And honestly, that I really love that, right? I love that it can be relevant to everyone.
How many meetings have you got today in your diary?
More than I'd like usually, right? I'm usually pretty booked up morning to night, but that's at the stage of business we're at. That's, we're hiring a lot. So that's kind of my job is to be head recruiter. Yeah.
I'm just looking. So I know you'll have more than me, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for me today. So that's 7 lots of prepping and tidying up and sharing notes, isn't it? That tools like yours are taken care of.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the nice part is like it kind of helps you before, during, and after a meeting. Right? I think meetings get a bad rep, right? Like especially like customer facing ones, they're super valuable. What's frustrating is when you have to do 7 of them in a day and the mental load of like talking to someone and typing out your notes at the same time and doing all the post meeting follow up work. We're basically trying to build this world where you just have the meeting. You just need to show up and Fathom kind of does the rest. And so I know using Fathom, I know my work life has changed. I've seen this is true for other folks where if I'm getting a follow up meeting with you, I just go look at the previous recording. And I don't watch the whole thing. I scan the summary. I watch the last 2 minutes. I click in anything in that summary that I want to kind of jog my memory on. And then I jump in those meetings feeling like I've got perfect recall. Like previous meeting could have been 4 weeks ago. And it's like I just got off it, right? And I think that's a really good feeling, right? Because I know we all stress about the pre-call prep and research and like, okay, what did I talk about last time? And you read your notes, you're like, I don't really remember exactly what that conversation was. This is different, right? It like triggers a lot of things, I think, in our brain. It like unlocks like, oh, great, I remember this call was perfectly. I get on the call, I can just have the conversation. I don't have to think about documenting it. And then after the call, I just move on to the next call, right? Like I can have it back to back and not be stressed out because Fathom's got your back and is taking the notes and doing all that data entry for you. So it's kind of nice. I think, again, it's hard to sell on this value prop, but I think the number one thing I hear is just like, wow, I'm way less stressed. I still have 7, 8, 9 meetings a day, but man, I don't feel as burned out at the end of the day because I wasn't kind of on edge the whole time about pre-call prep and missing something during the meeting and all the work I've got to do now tonight to do all my note cleanup and data entry. All that stuff goes away. And I think it's a much more humane way to be a worker that's very, be someone who's very customer facing.
I think the good bit, the stress reliever, I never thought of it, of what it was actually doing, but you're right, it's relieving the stress of, I've made my notes, and then I've got back to back and I've got another 3 calls. I've then got to go and relive that call again and try and remember.
Right.
And
Yep.
remember to send my notes is one thing for me.
Yep. Yeah.
Remembering to actually do it, but then the stress of thinking, yeah, I actually need to remember all that. So yeah, that's a huge. What's the word? Sort of like it's not just a time saver. It's you're more efficient, you're more effective, aren't you, as well? So
Yep. Yeah. Let's put you in situations to focus on things you do really well. And like, again, it's like kind of having your own assistant that's just joining you every meeting, right? You've got your own intern that's taking notes for you. It's great.
that's the way AI is sort of positioning now. Everybody's sort of getting their head around that. Yeah, you can make images, you can do deep fakes, or all these things, but actually, that always on, always ready, always willing, always taking the notes in turn or doing the first drafts in generative AI tools. How do you see these things affecting how we're communicating? So a bit of a big question in terms of we're all on video calls all day.
Right.
That's one shift in the past few years. How do you see tools like yours sort of helping us communicate differently now in this new way we already communicate?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, one is during the meeting, right? Because if I'm not kind of multitasking between taking notes, I can have a much more natural, fluid conversation, right? I don't have to worry about, oh, I need to write that down before I move on to the next thing, right? And that was always the part that stressed me out when I'd be kind of doing founder sales. I also think, after the meeting, super interesting because you're now in this place where you can, you can basically have the AI generate the follow-up email for you, right? Like we have a basic thing, Ask Fathom, which is like a chat GPT interface to your meetings. And you can be like, hey, like it pulls out all the action items for meetings. Hey, can you draft a follow-up email for this? And so I think, again, I don't think we generally differentiate ourselves based on our follow-up email sort of thing, right? Like it's just part of the work, right? And so I think, again, it allows us to, great, it's going to write a good first draft, and then I can tweak it and tune it and write a really good version, but I got a better version I would have in a tenth of the time.
I noticed that with my first use. So we're a new team member of Fathom, or whatever the terminology is. We're a new team using it. We've had a long, big tick in Fathom's box, I guess, for full disclosure, is we've had all these different tools surfing around, and then this is the one that IT and legal have gone, yes, use this one, guys, with the GDPR, safety compliance and quality checks. So shout out to you guys for that. But I noticed the notes that came through as soon as I used it, because it comes through so quickly. but it's still fresh enough for me to look at and spot the one thing it got slightly not quite right because of, it's technology.
Yeah.
But I'd have got 5 things wrong when I did my note 5 hours later.
Yeah.
So it's like I can correct it there and then, and it's good to go. They're such brilliant tools. I really love it.
I think the other way it's kind of changed how we communicate is like someone asked me how'd that call with so and so go or whatever, or if there's something come out of that was really interesting, I don't just send them just a couple bullet points. I'm like, I pull out that clip from that call and say, here's a 30-second clip of Paul giving this really interesting insight about a competitor or about how they're using Fathom or something like that. We also use it on like a lot of recruiting. Like I'm doing, we're growing the team quite a bit and doing a lot of recruiting, and I'll meet with a candidate after they did kind of an initial screen, and I will be like, hey, I actually watched your previous call with someone else on my team, and so I just pick up where they left off, and so it's kind of fun that we're almost time shifting these meetings. Like you don't have to be in a meeting anymore to be able to get the interesting bit out of it, because that always gets lost in translation to notes, right? Like it's a huge difference between that, right?
That's what I loved about spotting that one bullet line out of the 500 words or whatever. It made me think, did I misremember it? Is that what, if the AI saw it that way, perhaps the guy I was meeting did?
Right. Yeah, I think that's also interesting. And I think the other interesting part is like, we talk about like the AI is going to write notes for you, but I don't think most people want notes. And so, uniquely to us, if you get notes from Fathom, and again, you get them 30 seconds after the meeting, not only are they notes, they're really a table of contents, because each line of those notes is a link, and you click on that, and it'll take you back to that part of the conversation. And I think that's really powerful, is that kind of audit trail, right? And we see this, again, this is why I think the HubSpot integration we have is so popular. Also with managers, like, hey, you're doing a pipeline review, you're looking into a deal. We now have a whole like deal view where you can see, okay, here's a summary of what's happened on this deal across the 5 meetings you have. Here's a ChatGPT interface. You can ask any questions about it. But all these summaries and answers will take you back to that meeting. Like, hey, what were the top features this client is interested in? Oh, it's these 3. And here, go watch, this part from meeting 2 and this part from meeting 3, and here's them in their own words saying it. And I think that's so powerful. I used to run, my background is engineering and product design, but I ran sales for a minute at my last company, about a year. And this is the thing I found myself constantly saying with my team. It's like, yes, but what does this person actually say? Yeah, you think they're going to buy, or you think they need this feature to close? Can I go actually listen to it? And I think all of us know that is just such a powerful thing to be able to kind of like have that audit trail and not have to spend 6 hours listening to the entire, 5 meetings to get to it, right? Just be able to jump directly to those moments. Again, it's kind of fun, right? It kind of feels like we're living in the future. We can kind of it's almost like we've got perfect knowledge of everything that's happening in our company. And I think that's what the managers and leadership we work with get so excited about.
I presume you've been a fan for a while then of using asynchronous video comms.
Yes. So paradoxically, like, even though we're meeting software, I love internally us, using a Loom or doing a quick recording as opposed to having a meeting.
I think that sentiment, all the reasons for doing that, the visual cues, the tone of voice, all of those things. So you can zoom into those with the call recording.
Yep, 100%.
But zoom into just the bit that's relevant, not, where was it? Was it 20 minutes in, or was it 35 minutes in?
Yeah. I remember when I ran my sales team, it was like the most painful thing was trying to find time every day to listen to all these calls start to finish, because 80% of the call was just not that interesting. It was pretty rote. But it was in service of finding these gems. Where are these moments? And now the AI does a great job of finding them for you.
So what's the story of Fathom and how you nailed this?
We started about 4 years ago. I, kind of stumbled on this, solving my own problem. I was doing, I think at that time, actually like 20 Zoom calls a day, 15 minutes each. And so, very acutely aware of this pain point of like, this taking notes and cleaning.
Is this the height of COVID?
This is actually pre-COVID. Actually, right before COVID, was doing this quite a bit. At least that's where the inspiration came from. And then we started the company in kind of mid 2020, so right in the middle of COVID. And so obviously now everyone's on video calls, and so that just makes it easier. But yeah, I mean, we had this hypothesis back in 2020 that transcription was going to get cheaper and AI was going to get really good. which seems kind of obvious now, but I remember getting a lot of flack from our early investors for putting AI in our product name. They're like, people don't like AI. I was like, no, they don't like this version of AI, which is hard to remember now that like there are a bunch of companies in the late 20 teens that position themselves as AI, and it really was underwhelming, right? It wasn't very good. It looks like a toddler drawing with crayons compared to what we have now, right? Where we've got, what AI can do. And so, yeah, that's how we got started. We kind of said, gosh, we're gonna build a lot of the hard stuff, and when AI gets better, we're just gonna kind of get to drop that into the machinery. We're gonna build a great user experience, a great free product, a platform that's really reliable. Actually, getting this to reliably record across Zoom, Google Meet, and Teams is really hard. A lot of the predecessors to things like Fathom really struggle with that, and so we really wanted to send, hey, we just spent 2 years just getting that rock solid, right, and building the foundations of a easy to use product that's really reliable. And then AI comes along and we get to kind of drop that in. And I actually, I also did a bunch of research. Your listeners are probably familiar with Gong, and I interviewed like 100, Gong users, managers, and ICs to get really comfortable with like, oh, here's where I think we can add a lot of value, right? ICs weren't really using Gong. Great. Let's give something that the reps themselves get a lot of value in and makes them actually more productive. Managers weren't using the real expensive fancy features in Gong. They were using kind of like folders and comments and sharing, and great, let's build those features and sell them for 20% the price of a Gong license, right? And I think two things that worked in our favor. One, obviously AI got really good, so you can do these things. And the second thing is, I think we're in this more kind of cost conscious market where if I can give you 80% of the features you use in Gong for 20% the price, that's a really good deal. And pretty soon we'll give you some features that Gong doesn't have. And so, yeah, it's been a fun ride. It's easy to be directionally correct. We obviously had to get lucky a little bit on the timing. You can never be exactly sure when things are going to come to fruition, but obviously AI hit right when we need it to, and really kind of put booster rockets on something that was already going into orbit.
Last two questions, if you've got the time.
Yeah.
The AI. No, let me ask this one first. So the pace of change is exciting. So I'll ask you about that with AI as the last question. Before that, I noticed the GDPR recommendations in your tool. So those of us, I'm in Europe, most of our team are here in Europe. A lot of our clients are as well, and a lot of the software that comes, the exciting new features, are not GDPR compliant. How big a deal is that for you guys at your end to make sure these things are safe for legal places, legalities in other places?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like when we started the company, the two things we focused on first were basically like security and compliance and reliability, right? I kind of like, this is a product you are going to come to rely on. It needs these are table stakes have to happen. And I think pretty fortunate. My previous company, User Voice, we sold to we basically managed PII for some really big companies, Microsoft, Netflix, Meta, Intuit, you name it. And a lot of the core team from Fathom came from there. And so we from day one, I think, really understood what good security posture looks like and the importance of compliance and making sure our privacy policy is not just buttoned up, but as user friendly as possible, right? Like, I think the days of these companies writing these privacy policies where they're trying to get away with everything they can are over, right? Users read that stuff and they should. And so, yeah, I think we, as to give an example of this, like we did our SOC 2 audit before we even launched. And again, that was just an acknowledgement that we're holding sensitive data. Again, we're giving away this for free. So we have, it's kind of this paradox, like it's free, and yet we're trying to give you basically the compliance, security, and reliability you'd usually get something you pay 5-6 figures for. But yeah, we just think that's super, super important to this. Maybe even more important than the actual outputs itself is like you being able to feel comfortable that like this checks all the boxes. I'm not getting in trouble for using this from my IT team or my legal team or you name it. So I'm happy to hear that it's worked out for y'all because we've put a lot of effort into that.
You must run into some "this is too good to be true" objections.
I mean, that's literally, if you go to our homepage, it's like we have this like, how can this be free? Click this button and we explain our business model. Because before we had that, we had all these people, again, I get the sentiment after 10 years of people of companies, kind of exploiting user data. It'd be like, what's the catch, right? And so, yeah, it was funny. That was honestly one of our biggest headwinds of people like, this seems too good to be true. And so we really had to explain our business model in public. And then I think people were like, oh, that's great. So,
listen, you're back to back. So last question is, you talked about AI hitting at the right time. COVID probably hit at the right time for people being on video calls. I know Zoom exploded at that time and so on. But the pace of change of AI, the features you'll be adding thanks to that, where do you just see things going in the next chapter of comms in this world?
yeah, I mean, what's really exciting is, right, like this is, if you're familiar with Moore's law, which is like the speed of like processor improvements, this is faster than that. And people thought that was fast, right? It's every 6 months, this stuff doubles or triples. What we're really excited about now is the things we're able to do across a team. So not just write good notes for your meeting and not just find the action items and fill out your CRM, but if you're someone in leadership, I can now kind of look across, again, all the meetings for a deal and tell you where the risks are. I can look across all the conversations your team is having and, almost be a coach spotting points where like, their talk track doesn't match up with your sales methodology. So you're going to get this place where we can do things at scale. Like you can just ask questions of, hey, of every meeting that we have, tell me about every competitor that we've heard about and which ones are trending up and which ones are getting more traction and being mentioned positively. It's starting to understand tone, which is really exciting. It's not just looking at the text, but it's actually listening to the audio and picking up on tone, which we all know is such a key piece of information that is often missed when you just do transcription-based analysis. And the scale of data we can feed into it now is getting so much larger. And so that's making me really excited about what kind of value we can provide to folks where they've got their whole team on Fathom and they're trying to understand what's happening across, tens of thousands of hours of calls without listening to a single minute of it, right?
Amazing. Hey, and if you've got one, what's the one tip you give a new user to go and get the most out of Fathom?
Play with the summary output. So like there's a way you can basically go in and give the AI feedback on, hey, how can I make these notes better for you? And I think, everyone's got their kind of, we've all been taking notes for a long time, so we all know exactly what we want out of that. And if you use that feature, or also the Ask Fathom feature, where it's like this ChatGPT interface, and you can basically use that to generate follow-up emails or get it to write an SOW for you, stuff like that. So those are kind of the power user features that I generally try to tell folks to play with, because I think they get a lot of good ROI out of them.
Good tip. I've not done that bit yet, so I'm gonna do that myself. Take the advice straight to heart. So if you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave us a comment and 5-star review, and be sure to try out Fathom.video, totally free, and that will always be the case. Please hit that follow button to not miss future episodes. We'll see you next time. Thank you, Richard. I hope you have a lovely day, and the back-to-back meetings are a breeze thanks to your own tool.
Thank you so much for having me, Paul.
Speak to you soon.
Hey, did you enjoy this episode? Then be sure to leave us a comment, a review, and hit that follow button. See you next episode.